All right, ladies and gentlemen, today's lesson is going to be on combining like terms when you have an equation with multiple items in it. And the note sheet you're using today has this picture of a combine on it. Ha ha ha. So, for the first question, we have the set of directions to remind you that you are first going to look for like terms to combine. Then you're going to use your solving skills, and last you're going to check. So in the first equation we have m plus another m plus 3 equals 13. As always, you want to draw your locker. And we are going to scout out for some like terms. So we have one m right here. We have one more m sitting next door. So that means we have two m's when we combine. We need to bring down these other numbers that we haven't worked with yet. Okay, once you do that, you have a new equation that should look very familiar to the ones we've been working on, and this allows you to solve. So remember, when we solve an equation, even in high school, you're going to be solving this way. You're going to use opposite operations or inverse operations. Always start with adding, subtracting. So remember, to get rid of this plus 3, because our ultimate goal is to solve for m, we're going to subtract the 3 away. This guarantees that this is gone, and then our variable is one step closer to being by himself. Bring down the equal sign again, keep it nice and organized. Now we know we have the equation 2 times m equals 10. You remember that when they're tight together, it resembles multiplication. So to undo, or to use the inverse operation, we're going to divide. 2 divided by 2 cancels out. That's what we wanted. We wanted to find out what m equaled. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. So you'll circle your answers when you're done solving, but we want to check. So, very important, you go back to the original equation. Not the one you monkeyed with, because then if you goofed up, you won't figure it out. M is supposed to be 5. This m is also supposed to be 5. Guess what? When you plug that in and you do your math, 5 and 5 makes 10, 3 more makes 13. So we know that we did a good job. We are happy. We have the equation solved correctly. M does equal 5. So what I'd like you to do now is pause the video. Try this next one. Looks like I gave you a little hint there already. And then when you think you've got it, check it, and then play to make sure you got it. Okay, so let's see how you did. 3p plus 5p, they're definitely like terms. They have the same variable, so 3 of them plus 5 of them is 8. You brought down the plus 2, the locker, and the 18. We know you need to get rid of the plus 2, so that's why we minus 2. This gets gone, and you have 8p equals 16, so of course you want to divide by 8, so you no longer have anything stuck to p. It's just 1p equals 2. Checking, remember, you are using the original equation. I know it takes a little bit more work, but it is super, super important so you don't mess up at this point. So 3 times your answer of 2 plus 5 times your answer of 2 gives you 6 plus 10. And then, of course, when you add that all up, you do get 18 balanced out to equal 18. You know this is a good answer. Number 3, very similar to the one we just did. I'm going to have you pause the video, try that one, and also pause the video and try the next one at the top of the other side. Then play the video so you can check your work. Okay, at the bottom of this first side, you have 3x's plus 6x's combined. There's your 9x's. We still have a 14, our equal sign, and our 41. So looking at this stage, we have to get rid of our plus 14. So we use our opposite. We minus 14 from both sides. This is gone, so we can cross it out. Bring down what you do have, which is a 9x. Do the math over here and get your 27. And then, because this is detached by multiplying, remember we are dividing. Divide 9 by 9, you get your 1x. 27 got divided also. Remember, you always do the same thing on both sides to keep your equation balanced. We got a solution of x equals 3. To check and make sure x really does equal 3, remember the original equation. You plug in your answer, and you do your math. So 3 times 3 plus 6 times 3 gives you 9 and 18. Add that all up, and guess what? We do get 41. So the top of the right-hand side, you have the combined value of not just this 3x and this 5x, but you had another term that was a like term, same letter, same exponent. That makes them like terms. If we put all them together, we get 17 x's, and then we just bring down the rest of the numbers. Remember, you can draw your locker if you need it, although some of you might feel pretty comfortable that you don't actually need it every time, but you can. So this minus 7 is gone. We added to both sides, and then again at the very bottom we divided. We want to get rid of that 17. 51 divided by 17 is 3. Again, you're checking in the original equation. I know it takes a little bit of space up, but we want to verify that it really does work out, and it does. Now, for the last two, I need to warn you, we haven't worked with many negatives yet, but they do exist in this problem. You'll notice that you have like terms right here, but you're not actually going to get 26y's because this 10y, there's a minus sign behind it. So you remember what you can do anytime there's subtraction. You can keep change. So to combine these properly, you're actually going to realize that you're taking 10y's plus negative 6y's. Negative 16 is negative 6y's for your answer. This 5 is still here. The 35 is still here. So watch carefully. I'm going to draw the locker so we can keep it straight. We're still solving for the variable. We're still using opposite operations. So to get rid of a positive 5, we subtract 5. That's no different than what we've been doing. But then over here we have a negative 6y. This negative 6 is attached by multiplying, and we do need to get rid of it by dividing. But here's the deal. You have to divide by what's there. Negative 6 is only going to get canceled out by itself on the bottom of the fraction. Remember, a number divided by itself is 1. So you have to divide by a negative number, which means over here you have 30 divided by negative 6, which gives us a negative solution. Remember, it's okay to get negative answers. It's okay to get decimal answers. It's even okay to get fractional answers. All right, it just depends on what you're working with. Some of these I've given you are just very, very straightforward questions so far. And this is the first one I believe we've got a negative value that we're going to have. So as always, you want to check this one again. You just have to be a little more careful because of the negatives in there. You don't want to lose any negatives. You don't want to forget any of the negatives when you're working. So if you're doing this by hand, 10 times negative 5 gives you negative 50. This is like having a negative 16 times a negative 5, which I believe is positive 80. And then we have to combine all three of those. So I believe this gives us 30 plus 5 more. Yep, 35. Okay, so if you had not divided by that negative 6 in the very beginning, you would have thought the answer was 5, but you would have found your mistake over here because you would have gotten the check not to work out. So for the last one, I think you'll notice that this happens to us again. We have subtraction here to combine our like terms. Keep change. Positive 7 plus negative 10y is negative 3y's. And of course, if you're going to finish, you might have your locker. You have your subtraction going on. And then in the very bottom, we have to remember this negative value that's attached has to get divided by that exact value. You don't use opposites when you're dividing. You'll use opposites to get rid of your adding and subtracting. Division has to have the same number divided by itself. So I think for this last one, we get an answer of negative 1. So real quick, we'll do a check. Write the original equation down again. I know it takes up space, but it's important that we check in this one. Negative 1. I think that's a 10. And do some multiplying here. -7. Remember, this 10 is really a -10, so a negative times a negative makes a positive. And let's see, I think that'll give us 3 plus 6 more. It works. All right, make sure when you're looking at your note sheet, you are cutting down the dotted line before putting it into your ISN notebook. See me with questions.